2 years of Overwatch. It doesn't feel like it. Still feels like I got the game yesterday. Makes me feel old almost. A game that I owe so much to is 2 years old. A game that has given me happiness, given me sadness, given me saltiness, and most importantly, it's given me friendships that will last a lifetime. My life has been molded so much by this game, and I can never thank it enough. And to celebrate this wondrous game for the 2 years of joy and salt it has given me, I want to reflect on my favorite hero. I want to look back and catalog every change Junkrat received after the game was launched in 2016. Maybe something that's not as grand as what other people might talk about, but it's something that I want to talk about, because that was my life. That is what I did in this game. So let's take a trip down memory lane. Let's talk about Junkrat. This was the first buff of Junkrat. This buff was a simple but needed buff that changed how you use your ultimate significantly. The notes are as following. Riptire. Ability now activates more quickly. Developer comments. Junkrat can be an extremely effective hero in the right hands, but Riptire often felt underpowered when compared to his counterparts. This allowed for Junkrat to use his ultimate more effectively. Before this change, it was too easy to counter a Tire. It was the weakest ultimate in the game, but it became more useful with the ability to get it out more quickly and throw it into the fray of battle. This was the second Junkrat buff, and a very important one at that. I talked a lot about this in a video back in the day when it came out, but here are the notes. Total mayhem. Junkrat's explosions no longer hurt himself. Developers' comments. Previously, Junkrat's projectile speed made him difficult to use at long range, but the damage he took from his own explosions made him difficult to use at close ranges. This change makes him more effective at close ranges, allowing Junkrat players to explore new strategies. The ability to not do damage to yourself with the frag launcher is an extremely useful thing. The one huge problem that Junkrat had with his ability was to close the distance on enemies. If he got too close, he would deal a bunch of damage to himself. In most games, this would be okay, but for this one, it's a much needed change that helped Junkrat out a whole lot. This was the most controversial buff given to Junkrat. I personally did not mind it back then, but I can see why it was so powerful and why the meta shifted way too much based on this change. Concussion Mine. Junkrat now holds 2 mines. Riptire. Tire's movement speed has been increased by 30%. There is no longer a time limit when wall climbing. Developers' comments. Giving the Junkrat the ability to store 2 concussion mines adds some much needed flexibility and versatility to his kit, particularly when using the mines for mobility. Riptire's damage has also been very good, but has often been difficult to steer the Tire into positions before it was destroyed. Increasing the speed will allow players to effectively detonate the Tire more often and increase the amount of time that Junkrat is vulnerable while controlling it. Giving Junkrat 2 120 damage mines with no drop-off damage and the ability to launch your Tire off the walls into enemies without knowing where it's coming from was certainly powerful. Many people hated the buff, and many people started to play this hero at the same time. Before this, many people didn't like the hero, so I was a little mad that I could not be the rare Junkrat main anymore. A nerf was needed for Junkrat, and many Junkrat mains, including myself, were afraid of what Blizzard might do. We had seen heroes get nerfed to the ground after they got highly buffed, but this was a good nerf, where Junkrat could have been utterly destroyed. Concussion Mine. Now will deal less damage to targets farther away from the explosion's center. Developers' comments. Junkrat has been enjoying the flexibility his double charge concussion mine provides, but it has become a bit too easy to throw out huge bursts of damage in a large area. With this change, he can still dish out the similar damage, but he must now be more accurate with his tosses. A damage fall off was a good change that could have been there in the first place, if I'm honest. Many people's responses were, wait, it didn't have a fall off? and others were with clickbait thumbnails that said the death of Junkrat, which is one of the dumbest claims I've ever heard the community say. The most recent nerf was a minor one that weeds out the babies from the men. Frag Launcher. Projectile size decreased from 0.3 to 0.2. Rip Tire. Tire movement speed decreased from 13 to 12. Developer comments. These changes are aimed at lowering some of the most frustrating parts about playing against Junkrat. Decreasing the Frag Launcher's projectile size means he will have to aim a bit more carefully to land powerful direct hits, and slowing the Riptire's movement speed gives his opponent slightly more time to destroy it before it detonates. I know it's a meme to say that Junkrat needs aim, but it's true. Junkrat requires a different type of aim, and this nerf made sure that the ones that can actually do it, like yours truly, would continue to do that, while the bad ones would not be as rewarded as much. And the ult was changed so minor that I completely forgot that it was changed until I researched it for this episode. So what is Junkrat now compared to his old self? A new and more complex character that is not too powerful, but can certainly pack a punch if in the correct hands. Junkrat will always be my favorite character that I will always play, even if they nerf him to the ground. Happy birthday, Overwatch, and here's to another year of salt, joy, and friendships to make.